Okay, well, could you tell us a little bit, Christine, please, about how you see brand measurement align with business's financial value? How do those two things come together in your organization?
Very much aligned with evidence-based marketing science, where what you're seeing is that the brands that have higher share of market tend to be the brands that have higher levels of penetration, and always tend to be the brands with the higher salience, the higher meaning, the higher distinctiveness or meaningful difference in the world of Kantar, right? So we have, we see this quite often, and this is why for us it's so important to continuously measure the health of our brands and not just look at the health of our brands from the point of view of penetration, but also look at it from the point of view of where does it sit in consumers' minds. There is definitely a correlation between how healthy your brand is on those three metrics that we use with Kantar and how financially valuable your brand is going to be based on the share of market that it's going to have.
So this concept of how meaningful, how different, how salient the brand is, that has a real world impact in terms of the financial value that the brand is able to generate for your business.
Precisely right.
And how does your brand measurement, or you're using the meaningful different salient framework, how does that analysis help you understand how effective, for example, your campaigns are for your brands?
Meaningful, different, and salience are metrics that move really slowly over time. And we all have to embrace that. And we have to be aware that what we put in market today might not necessarily have an impact in your meaningful index or in your salience impact index for a very long time, or it might have a small impact for that matter. Therefore, what's really important is for us to be able to look at what's underneath those metrics and what are the sub-metrics that are driving these, right? Those are the ones that might be able to move a little bit faster. And this is where spontaneous awareness, aided awareness, consideration, et cetera, come into play. But also how consumers view the brands, right? So are the brands currently satisfying a particular consumer desire for taste, for quality, or for more emotional, i.e. meaningful related metrics, such as, is a brand for somebody like me? I would be proud to choose, et cetera, et cetera. We do see that those metrics move a little bit faster than the macro metrics of MDS. And therefore, whenever we're putting any sort of comms together for consumers, or even a through the line campaign that's going all the way from the media that the consumer will see to what the consumer will see in store or in bar, we always make sure that those metrics are very clearly articulated in our KPIs, and that we have, most of the time, that we have a clear view of how much we would like to move them.
That's such a lovely way of thinking about it. So you have your long-term destination, but what you've developed is this fluency, which helps you understand the little ripples on the water, indicating whether you're getting towards that destination or not. And huge debate, how can we connect the long to the short? And I love how you're describing that you just follow this path, you follow the trail back to the short-term things that move a bit more sensitively, and that's helping you know that you're on the right track. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Precisely. And the other part of it is that there's also other tools that we can leverage to understand whether or not we are close to shifting one of the broader metrics, right? And those are tools that are developed here at Diageo in collaboration with the Kantar team, which take, for instance, social listening, talkability, and search trends to help us understand within a particular short period of time, say it's a quarter, whether or not there has been any conversation or any intent for one of our brands, when we know that this is exactly the time when a particular campaign or effort has been flighting. So that makes it extremely helpful as well, because what it does is, to your point, it gives us signals of whether or not we should be expecting these bigger metrics to be moving over time.
I love that word, signals. I'm trying to use that much more because we can think about data, we think about metrics or KPIs, but signals, I think, is much more evocative of what we're talking about here. We're trying to see signs that something we're doing is having an effect and trying to interpret what that effect is and make sure that it's the one that we're looking for. So yeah, I love that idea of blending these different data sets that are available now. We don't have to rely on just some of the conventional data inputs like survey, as important as they remain. We can blend in some other ways of understanding what's going on and trying to get the full picture. That's great. I really love that idea. So how is the meaningful different salient framework of thinking about brands, how has that helped you grow in your category, would you say?
The first thing is that it's, the methodology, your output is an index, right? So you are indexed against the players within your category, whether they are internal players or external players, right? So other brands within the industry that represent the category, be it, in our case, be it total beverage alcohol, inclusive of spirits, beer, etc., or within the subcategories in spirits, like, for example, whiskey and vodka and tequila, right? So what makes it really helpful for us is that we understand the strength of our brands within that context because it is based off of an index. And it helps us also understand leveraging that index out of those three metrics, right? Which are the ones that we need to focus over an extended period of time in order to continue galvanizing our brands, right? And assuring the continued growth, long-term growth of our brands. So you have brands that are doing really well in salience and might need a bit of help with driving meaningfulness. These might be brands that have been in the market for quite some time, right? And have gone through a couple of cycles of generations of users, right? And by the time that you get to this next generation, you really have to do a lot of the groundwork to reestablish the meaning for that brand, even though it may be salient. And by the way, even though it may be distinctive. The same way, we have brands that are much smaller and that are much newer and still have a lot of ground to grow in terms of their salience, right? And one of the things that I find really interesting and helpful is how we can leverage MDS to help us understand when you want to grow your brand's penetration, what are the two macro metrics that you need to focus on, right? And that is meaning and that is salience. And then when what you want to do is demand pricing power, right? So premiumizing, which is something that in our industry is also very important, you need to make sure that your salience is in a really good place. But then what you actually need to dial up is your distinction and your meaning. What's really important is that meaning sits in the center of those two. So if you're not helping consumers understand, number one, what this brand is about, not just the brand exists in the world, but number one, what this brand is about. Number two, is it fulfilling something that you are expecting out of the category? Number three, does it actually mean something emotionally to you? Are you associating it with something that you might be able to go back to at the moment of choice when your system one goes into play, right? That side of your brain goes into play, and you need to be able to retrieve memory. So that meaning piece, we really see it as the glue that sticks the brand to your brain. And so when you look at the three metrics, each one of them has a very, very clear role, but it's one of the things that I keep trying to help our teams understand is that it's not one or the other. You need to be firing on all cylinders. And when you know that you need to drive either more penetration or premiumization or both, then that's when you have to make some choices of how you need to dial up distinctiveness or how you need to dial up salience, but meaning is always it's always at the heart.
I love that idea that meaning is the glue that makes the brand stick to the brain. That's great. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that the meaningful different salient framework, it offers on the one hand a lot of focus, because as you say, well, actually you know that the heartland you're trying to improve is here, or the route to growth is here, but it also provides flex because it deals with two types of growth, both penetration and profit or price premiumization. But also the fact that sometimes it's going to be about meaning, sometimes different, sometimes salient. So it's got that kind of flexibility built in. Have I captured that correctly?
Precisely right. Precisely right. I mean, in the end, you want all three of those metrics to be at the very best they could possibly be from an index standpoint. You want them to be over-indexing versus the rest of the category, right? But again, you should also look at it from the point of view of how do you flex your brand building efforts to be able to leverage those metrics and your diagnosis based on those metrics to achieve very specific
which
goals.
is perfect. And that brings us back to the beginning of our conversation where we were saying that the outcome of all of this is a real financial outcome, because you were saying that you can see the evidence in your data that the brands that are excelling on how meaningful, different and salient they are the ones that are delivering the most value, not only to your business, but also to the lives of the consumers who are enjoying them as well. So you have this wonderful, I love the way that you're thinking about this, because you have this business outcome, you have the building blocks of the framework to help you diagnose and focus. And then you understand those ripples that are around the edge of the water that are linking those outcomes to the signals. Well, that was great. Thank you so much, Christine, for chatting with me today and for giving us those wonderful examples about how you found the meaningful, different and salient framework so useful to your brands at Diageo. Thank you.